I am delighted to be speaking to Cara Mackay today. Cara and I met a couple of years ago, and I just loved her passion and her energy. And in the spirit of the Ikigai group coaching that I've been doing recently about finding your passion and discovering what your purpose is, I thought that Cara would be a brilliant person to speak to explain what her passion and her purpose were. So Cara, if I can hand over to you, and if you could give us a bit of a potted history of your background.
I'm Cara. I make the best sheds in the world, as everybody should know by now. That's my thing. My dad and my uncle started a business called Gillies and Mackay back in 1989. I was a labourer, a woodcutter, in the workshop, out on site, doing the deliveries, and creating these spaces for people who need somewhere that's just for them, for whatever purpose they've acquired it, whether it's their art, whether it's just for storage or you like a sort of practical element to their home life.
Hide in it during
yes.
lockdown.
Exactly, yes. They've served such a great purpose, especially now, as you're just pointing out, Jude, we've had so many messages of people renovating their 20-year-old playhouse for their new classroom for their children and things like that, and how summer houses and sheds and garages and garden rooms have become new hubs and offices and businesses in the back garden. So it's been incredible to see all the stories come out about shed life.
I know sheds is what you do, and I think you have a real strong purpose. And when we met before, you talked about actually just wanting to continue your dad's and your uncle's legacy and that family business, and to provide for the wider family. Mm-hmm. But I also think what your passion is the content marketing. Tell me a bit about your passion for that, because that really shines through.
What was really clear to me was that I just finished honours degree in business management, RGU, and everything there, the theoretical practice and the practicability of pulling that across to business just seemed not quite good enough, if you know what I mean. Like, it was very detached, very formal, professional, contrived, and it just didn't sing to me at all, really. Like, this wasn't good enough for my business. Like, it wasn't really getting the message of who we were and what we do across. And with content marketing, it really allows you to bring in the passion that you have for the thing that you do. It gets you to be your customer's friend instead of this constant selling at someone. There's none of that. It's all about educating and pre-educating your customer to make the correct buying decision for them. And as soon as you get your head around that, as soon as you understand that you're not there to put on a show and jazz hands your best-selling items, you're actually there to help your customer in a way where they can then decide for themselves confidently what is the best option for them, and being at peace with the fact that that might not be you, because that is not the end of the world. You're not a fit for all, and it's about finding the right people for you. So I am there as the front face, and have been for the past 4 or 5 years now.
Well, you make it look so easy, and all the stuff that you've done. I mean, I've seen the stuff that you've done pre-lockdown, but the stuff that you've done post-lockdown, I suppose what it said to me is that you can never, you're just answering the questions that people have, and you can never do that enough. And even if you've recorded the content before, you can still record it again and with a slight tweak and a slight change on it to make it relevant for the current times. You're quite a forthright person, and you're not frightened of putting yourself out there. And I think, there's a lot of people who aren't that brave to speak their mind quite as openly. Yeah. Tell me about the time you got into trouble on LinkedIn without using any swear words, please.
As a person, I come from a small village in the countryside, and was raised on a farm by my own parents, my stepdad, and we're all championed and looked after incredibly well. So I've been raised right, with confidence, with an abundance of confidence passed down to me by my mother. I never thought that being me would be a bad thing. And I think when you go out into the big bad world, and this is coming from a trade background, being in an operational setting, working in the workshop with men, predominantly all men, and being absolutely safe, looked after, appreciated and respected, to then going into a professional setting where I am a woman who is a manager of a construction business, to then go to the table beside lots of other professionals in management positions or directorial positions, to then be looked upon with no respect, with complete, to then attack anything that comes out of my mouth, because I am a female, because I'm young, because I'm in construction, and because I swear. So all of those things that came to the table in light of writing an article with swear words in it on LinkedIn didn't make me want to shy away and hide and feel I had no place. It made me want to be the opposite. So when I post on LinkedIn, when I post on Twitter, when words come out of my mouth, they are just me. So if it's not good enough for the trolls on LinkedIn or male pale men of the world, then I'm not interested. It's not for them. It never was. This is just for me and the people who can align with what comes out of my mouth. So that's it, basically.
And I know that you spoke in support of Catherine Calderwood, and I interviewed Jude McCorry a couple of weeks ago, who's the CEO of the Scottish Business Resilience Centre, and she also mentioned her as someone that she admired and someone who was doing a fantastic job for Scotland in these difficult times, and what a shame that she'd been vilified by the media. Any thoughts or comments on that?
Although that's just it's straight up cancel culture. I do not have time for it. I think it's just a trend of what we can see in politics today, where nobody is allowed to be humane, nobody is allowed to have humility. Everybody's expected to be this crystal clear, perfect version of themselves, which, by the way, is impossible, because we're all human. The more that we accept that the media and the societal view of cancel culture is actually the vetting point of whether or not we accept somebody. The media can't decide whether or not a person who has had 30 years of experience in the business and has spent every working day for others and putting the fight for so many amazing things that Catherine has done forward, to then just to go like that because of something that has absolutely nothing to do with them. These situations happen because there is no context. And people are losing their lives, their jobs, and people just say whatever the hell they want to say without any accountability.
We've seen a lot of amazing female leaders during the crisis, during the pandemic, from across the globe, being human, putting across that genuine side, that authenticity. Any that stand out for you?
Nicola Sturgeon. For me, and it's not necessarily anything to do specifically with the SNP. I don't agree with all the things that they do themselves as a party and to do with politics, but for her to show that she doesn't have all the answers, and she's just really trying her best to make sure that she can get things right, and she might not be getting it right.
How have you dealt with the lockdown situation and and with the interruption to your business?
Yes, Gillies and Mackay will be fine. Our guys are well looked after. We've got a team of 15 who are furloughed and enjoying their lockdown time. There's a lot of DIY happening at the moment, which I'm sure their partners will be incredibly grateful for, because it's always the last thing that gets done. So my relationship with my team has been volatile in the sense of them transitioning from Dad and Grant being the bosses to me being the boss, and it's sometimes more than once I've wanted or have left. and it's all been because of the team dynamic. And then coming out into lockdown, it became very apparent that they were not only accepting me as their leader, they were actively championing me.
Give an example.
So one of our lead joiner in the workshop, who I had the most difficult time with as we were going through our transition, in the most emotional sense, he was one of the ones that said, you know, you're doing a really good job, Cara. Thank you for everything that you've done.
And what is it that you've done that they wanted to thank you for?
Just managed the situation well. Like as soon as we started to realise the importance of what COVID was bringing to us, it was the 12th of March, so that was 12 days before lockdown. I instantly implemented a new protocol. Social distancing, making sure that they had all their hygiene products. The weekend of the 7th of March, I emailed all of them and said, this is the shopping list that I want you to go and buy for your household, and this is 50 quid to go and get it. So I sent them away to do that. And then on Monday, I was like, right, this is how we're going to work the situation as we see it now. And this will change daily. But as a minimum, this is what we all need to do. And it was just creating trust between all of them, that they all were going to behave in exactly the same way to look after each other. And then it was the understanding that if any of them did get sick, then we would then work for them. So it wouldn't be a case of, you get sick, you only got statutory sick, and then you don't get paid, or, you know, it wasn't like that. It was like, this is how much money the business needs to make to pay for X amount each week. If you fall ill, then everybody else picks up the slack and covers your wage too. I was able to show them the path and say, what do you think? And then any concerns or suggestions that they had were put forward into the mix collectively. It was about looking after everybody else.
And did you have a group chat beforehand? And
No.
Do you have one now?
Yeah, so I mean, like, for all of us to communicate at this level, and with this kindness and without bravado or ego is unheard of. For them to show their soft side, it takes a lot. It takes COVID. So we're doing our updates as and when Boris and Nicola Sturgeon were doing theirs, and touching base, making sure that everybody was happy, understood and clear on what that impacted on us and when we would go back. But I think after I made the decision about not going back until the 1st of June, it's just made everybody like calm and relieved, and like, that's the decision, it's done.
How, because you've made it very clear that you're going back on the 1st of June, but mm-hmm. as we're talking now, the government guidelines are not, that there's a suggestion that lockdown's going to be relaxed, but we're not quite there yet. So how did you come to that? How did you decide on the 1st of June? Right.
So firstly, there's a massive difference between the type of business and work that Gillies and Mackay does in comparison to the type of business and work that service industries do. All of my guys cannot work from home. So that is not an option for them. The interruption loan scheme that was given to us by RBS is until the 1st of June. So we have accounted for 3 months worth of closure, which will be, regardless of whether or not there's furlough on the table, the business itself cannot withstand another month of closure, because what then will happen is that the orders and sales that we have on the books then fall into another month behind, which then falls into our stock build periods, which then falls into whether or not people are willing to wait that amount of time for the building that they have put a deposit on, which then falls into people asking for their deposits back, which then falls into cancelled sales. So the repercussions of not opening on the 1st of June versus opening on the 1st of June are a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. I am also fully responsible for the safety of our staff now. The way that our workshop works means that all staff members can work in isolation very easily, and we can organise split shifts very easily. The only people that are at any form of risk technically are our deliverers, and the protocol that they will be following is far more stricter than required, and it will make sure that there is no contact with customers. So the only contact that the deliverers have is technically between each other, and that is limited to the absolute minimum. Separate vans, separate tools. The contact I'm talking about is when they're holding panels that are slightly smaller than 2 meters, and that will be the only sort of in 2 meter range contact that they will have. They'll be masked, they'll be sanitized, there'll be everything you could possibly expect there to be in order to take the relevant precautions to make sure that the virus isn't passed.
Given that that's all the practical stuff that you've done in order to comply with what will be the post-COVID world, in terms of technology advancement or communications, will anything else change?
Well, I mean, there's the way that we communicate and make sales. So luckily, I have 5 years content marketing on my site, which tells everything my customers need to know.
Have you made sales during lockdown?
Yes, £135,000 since we locked down. Yeah, so I mean that's us meeting our normal sales targets regardless of lockdown, which is phenomenal. Now, there was no way of predicting that would be the case. So if we are focusing on what we have in our closest vicinity, we have our kids, our partners, our animals, you know, stuff that you never get round to doing is getting done. You're making it safer, you're making it more enjoyable, you're creating spaces for your 2-year-old to be able to use the front garden, knocking up a fence and putting a bit of deck down, you know, getting a paddling pool sorted, that sort of thing, planting plants, you know, it's just, and I think that we spend so much time you know, debating and deliberating over the negative aspects of what COVID has brought. But ultimately what it is really actually giving people time to recalibrate and understand what is important in their lives. For us now to just be getting a break at the hardest time, I'm going to take it and I'm going to run with it as best I can.
And so tell me, what's your purpose and what's your passion for the future then?
It's quite a difficult question, I suppose, and it shouldn't be, but it is, because I give it a lot of thought most days. And the one thing that I really, really want to be able to say in my life when it comes to its end is that I have been the influence for my children and for the people that love me and that I love. It's all to do with influencing my children to strive, to never settle, and to be the best version of themselves that they can be. I want them to see that that's what I do, and I want them to say to themselves, that's my mum, and that's how she lived her life, and that's how I want to live mine. So just, you know, being that positive influence that everybody needs. You know, everybody needs that one person that brings that positivity to their life, and that's what I want to be.
I think what a brilliantly positive note to end on. So thank you very much for your time. It's always a joy. It's always slightly spicy, and I like that. Keeps on the nose, but thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Jude.